Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Visit scdheck.gov for an updated list of testing sites and important information on how to protect yourself, your family, and friends from the coronavirus. SCDHEC, healthy people, healthy communities. In it together and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, presenting Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with COVID. The City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Log on to columbiasc.net/OBO. Agape Counseling and Training Services. Call 803-779-2777 for licensed professionals of counselors and social workers helping families, engaged and married couples, and individuals of all ages gain an understanding of all aspects of their lives. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, contact Agape Counseling and Training Services at agapects.com. And Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Coping with COVID, brought to you by SCDHEC, In It Together, the Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Center, and Palmetto Media Connections.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Fight the spread and take a stand against coronavirus. Wear a mask in public. Stay at least 6 feet apart from others. And get tested. Join us and fight the spread. Visit scdheck.gov/COVID-19.
Welcome to Coping with COVID. I'm Tre Tailor. We're giving you updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. As you heard, it's brought to you by SCDHEC, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Center, which, by the way, if you are having some challenges coping with COVID, please contact the folks at Agape Counseling and Training Center. Coping with COVID is also brought to you by Palmetto Media Connections. Now, on Wednesday, we do Wellness Wednesday. That's brought to you by In It Together SC and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council. Well, it's Faith Friday. It's time for motivation, inspiration, and encouragement. And today, we're going to bring you a story that will prove you can rise as high as you want to in life, regardless of where you started out. Raquel Richardson Thomas joins us. She was a foster kid, suffered abuse, and still came out being a successful entrepreneur, opening 5 successful businesses, count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, before her 30th birthday. Raquel, thank you for joining us today, beautiful.
Thank you, Tre. It's always a pleasure and fun to hang out with you.
Thank you so much. Well, we're looking forward to you telling your story and motivating and inspiring others that they can do the same. We'll hear her story coming up next, but first, your COVID community updates. Beginning today, Publix will offer COVID vaccines at 60 South Carolina locations. Now, appointments can be made online. Vaccinations are free. And if you have insurance, you'll need to show your insurance card. Visit the website for more information and check the screen throughout the show for more information. SC Housing is offering help for those having challenges paying their rent or mortgage. Now, you can get up to $7,500 per month for 6 consecutive months for future or back payments. Visit scstay.org or call 833-985-2929 for information. And ABC will air a conversation with Black women tonight at 8 o'clock. Deborah Roberts will host the special program looking at how women of color feel about the future and how they're coping with the past. And it's job loss, the pandemic, racism, and also being elevated and recognized politically. The show will also stream on the ABC and Hulu apps. SCDHEC has your most up-to-date list of times, dates, and location for COVID testing in and around South Carolina. Visit scdheck.gov for more information. You can also go to gogettested.com. Now there, in 5 states, you can get appointments, locations, and results in 48 hours. You'll also get information throughout the show streaming about organizing a COVID screening at your event or in your neighborhood. And then there's the DHEC Care Line. Now there, you can find out about testing, transportation to get a test, and the COVID vaccine. Now, speaking of transportation, if you live in Richland or Clarendon counties and are unable to get to a COVID test, those paramedics in Richland and Clarendon County are actually doing in-home COVID screenings. Call 911 for more information. COVID vaccinations are being held at several locations in and around South Carolina. You can go to Lexington Medical Center to get a COVID vaccination. You can see the information there on the screen. Of course, if you're a veteran, they are vaccinating veterans at the VA. You can see that information again on the screen. And also, COVID vaccinations are being held at Kroger pharmacies, CVS, and of course, we just told you about Publix. Again, check the screen for more information. And throughout the show, you'll see that information scrolling at the bottom. Now, if you need help with your rent or mortgage, as we just said, SC Housing is offering rental and mortgage assistance for those affected by COVID. Again, the number is 833-985-2929 or visit scstay.org. The NAACP is continuing their housing assistance program. It's for landlords, mortgage companies, and also tenants. Contact the Columbia branch of the NAACP for more information. And the SC Bar Association and SC Legal Services continue their collaboration to offer a toll-free number and website for rental and mortgage help. The City of Columbia is offering their 6-month payment plan for water bills. You can also get payment assistance to pay your bill up to 75%. And if you are an adult or a student needing a scholarship, whether it's for school or for your business, Central Carolina Community Foundation has $3 million in scholarships available right now. Go to their website and apply. If you need help virtually learning or working, Rashonda Pratt's YouTube channel is up and available. Go over there, hit the subscribe button, and check out Rashonda Pratt. She's got some great information and tips for virtual learning and virtual working. We talked to Rosalind Goodwin yesterday with the South Carolina Hospital Association. She told us about the open enrollment for health insurance. Go ahead, get the website, apply. If you or someone you know needs health insurance, you've got until May 15th. That's right, till May 15th to get a policy, insurance policy. And as she told us yesterday, many of them have zero premiums. If you're in the market for a job, Rapid Reliable has openings in South Carolina. Not only are they offering COVID testing, but they also need folks to work in several different areas. So again, you can go to rrtesting.com or check out the other information that's on the screen. Finally, Richland County Public Library is looking for kids ages 6 to 18 to submit essays, plays, short stories, drawings, and photos for its 2021 Kids in Print edition. Submit by February 23rd to richlandlibrary.com. I'm Tre Tailor. You're watching Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. We are streaming live on the Tailor Made production page. Would you please go over there on Facebook and hit like and share and follow, so you can not only watch Coping with COVID Wednesday through Friday, and of course, First Mondays with George Wallace. You can watch and get all of your COVID-related updates. We're posting constantly, so please go over there and check that out. We're also streaming live on YouTube. Hello to everyone on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. Please go over there and hit the subscribe button. Once again, we want you to post and share this information out so we can get the message to the masses, because Faith Friday is a time, like I said, where we bring you inspirational, motivational, encouraging stories from people who have gone through and from people who can help you go through. I want to say hi to Maxine Moses and also to Juliet Green. She says, hello there, Juliet. Thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate you. It's good to hear stories, as I said, from people who actually made it through the storm. And while not unscathed, definitely stronger and better than before. This is one of those stories. Raquel Richardson Thomas was raised in a drug-ridden home, sent to foster care where she was then abused and ridiculed. That would halt and stifle many people's lives, but not her. Raquel put herself through college, ended up owning 5 successful businesses before her 30th birthday. And she's got so many more accolades after that, but she can tell the story better than I can. Raquel, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you, beautiful.
Thank you for having me, Tre. And you probably can tell the story better than me, actually. But I'm gonna give it a twirl.
You can do it, girl. So listen, tell us about growing up in a house, with drug use and drug abuse.
I think, I don't think it's unique story, to be
Yeah.
perfectly honest with you. I think a lot of us go through the same thing. We have a lot of young children right now. I work heavy in academia and with children in underserved communities, and many of our children are going through it. I think the only thing that you can do as a young person is to get to the next day. It's always about just getting to the next day. For me, it was about getting to school. I just needed to get to school the next day, and that was kind of my refuge. I felt the best when I was in the classroom. I felt the best when I was on the basketball court, volleyball court, track and field. So for me, surviving it was more so just getting through each day and getting to school. School gave me a lot of hope. And direction, I'll say. Going to school kind of gave me an idea of what I wanted to do, because I didn't have a lot of examples around me in my home or in my community in which I could look at and say, okay, this is what I want to be when I grow up, or this is what I want to do. But when I went to school, I had teachers that were entrepreneurs. I had teachers that were very active in the community, coaches who had very nice homes and cars. So I kind of was able to form what my life would look like if I did the work. So for me, school was the key to overcoming and getting through it. I think the day to day, it varies from kid to kid. I saw a lot of things, from the fighting to the yelling to alcohol abuse. It was across the board. So many things I saw as a young kid, but it also is the reason why I'm where I am right now. It was also a tool that allowed me to know what I did not want. I didn't know exactly what I wanted and how I was going to get there, but I knew exactly what I did not want and what I would not do.
Yeah, I love that, because you're right. You could either, and that's the thing about it, Rock, you're right. A lot of people are going through it and have gone through it. The difference is, like you said, you could either use it as a tool to not do that, but so many people get sucked into it. So what's the difference? What happened with you that it clicked? Because like I said, it could have gone either way.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm still the only high school graduate, and no. I have one other cousin that graduated a few years ago. She went on to college, but she's the second. So up until 2 or 3 years ago, I was the only high school graduate, college graduate in my family. For me personally, I think I've always been who I am right now, even as a little person. So I've always been very structured, very organized. I think a lot of where I am and how I survive is just kind of a thing where God said, okay, this is going to be your job. You're going to survive this because you have to tell somebody else's story so they can survive. I don't know if it was me. I really think it was God working, and I was just kind of following. I was obedient enough to just
follow.
That. I think because I've always been very structured, very black and white. Most people think I'm very black and white. But I don't think it was me. I don't think I did anything in particular. I've always had drive. I've always wanted to be successful. So whether it be in business or my grades. So as a kid, I really wanted to make good grades. When I was on the basketball court, I wanted to be the best player. When I worked at Foot Locker as a teenager, I wanted to be the best employee. So I've always had the drive and energy to say, I want to be the best. If I'm going to work at McDonald's, I'm going to flip burgers the best. If I'm going to work at Foot Locker, I'm going to tie shoes the best. And I think that has gotten me far. But I think for the most part, Trey, it's just God saying, this is your story, and we're going to use your story to help and save other people.
It's Faith Friday, and we're talking to Raquel Richardson Thomas. She's been telling us about how she was raised, and as many, like you said, folks, raised with drugs and abuse, but how she turned it around. I wanted to ask, so was it that school athletics was, you said it was your outlet. It was you always, that kind of helped you. So did it help you, or was it there because you wanted it to be there, or did you make it that way? Do you know what I'm asking?
Both, right? You have to, when you leave your house and go to school, you have to want to do the work. You have to want to be successful. But it's also, for me, it was the only place that there was positive praise.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Versus yelling and screaming. And you're just trying to stay out of the way because you don't want to get a whooping, or you don't want to be hurt, or you don't want to be embarrassed. So for me, it was like, oh gosh, if I do this well, they're going to say good job. And it felt good, you know, and I didn't necessarily have that at home. So for me, it was more about you do it because you want to do better and you want to get further. But the school is always going to be there. You know, school is there. It's just a matter of what you do when you walk through the doors, what you do with the opportunities that are given to you. So for me, when I walked into the classroom, getting a C was not an option for me. And I didn't have my mom or dad or grandmother. No one ever asked me to see my report card, by the way. No one did homework with me either. It was literally going to school and knowing that if I did well, the teachers would give me good praise, and it felt really good. And it was motivating. I don't think I could articulate that then, but it motivated me to do better. It motivated me to get a really good grade so that my teacher would say, great job, Raquel. Yeah. Or I would help other kids do their work. So it's both. You gotta utilize what's in front of you. And when you have things that are offered to you, like going to school and being able to be in school for a majority of the day, you have to take advantage of it. You have to do the work. You have to go in with the mindset, I'm going to work as hard as I can.
Yeah. Yeah. So from that household, you really kind of went into another unfortunate situation when you were in foster care, because there you were ridiculed.
Yeah.
And abused.
You know, so I think for my story is even different there. When most of us go into the foster system, we're really young. I was a 9th grader. So here I am, I could almost take care of myself, in all honesty. And when you go into foster care at that age, you already have a personality. You already kind of know what you're going to do in life. So it's really a huge blow to your self-esteem, to your mental health. I think I struggled mentally. It was the only time that I even thought about suicide. Or considered suicide. It was during that time frame. And
why? What happened there that made you?
I was so different than the other kids. Like when I was there, I'll never forget this. And there was 2 kids and an infant that came in. This is like my 3rd night there, and I didn't rest. I couldn't go to sleep. I didn't rest well. I was just different than the other kids. They were babies, and I was kind of like a little adult. A man had killed, and I think they're from the Eastover area. A man had killed the children's mother. And of course, they came into protective care service. So I was up when they came in, and I just remember hearing the staff talk amongst themselves, like, how did that little boy get his 2 siblings hidden in a closet? And I just thought, I don't have that story. I mean, I was physically abused and had to go to the emergency room, but there was no one trying to kill me or kill somebody around me. So I struggled with just feeling like I wasn't supposed to be there, and that despite how bad it was in my home, I was fine compared to other kids. So when you go into protective child services, you go with nothing. So you're using the clothes that are there. So it wasn't like I didn't look how it would normally look when I went to school. My hair wasn't how it would normally be when I went to school. So I was like this whole nother person, and you have to show up, and your friends are like, what happened to you? What's wrong with you? Why didn't you call me this weekend? And it was just a lot.
And it was different because you were in the foster system.
Yes. So, for me, I think for a moment, I felt like it would have been easier just to not wake up anymore, because it was just hard to cope with where I was and what was going on. So I just felt like it would be easy not to get up, and I had a headache. So I asked the house mom, and she was a very nice lady. I can't remember her name, but they were very nice people, by the way. They treated me well. They did everything they knew to do to try to pick me up. And I asked for something for a headache, and lack of judgment, she gave me the key to the medical cabinet because I was older.
Yeah.
And I took obviously more pills than I should have. And I was like, you know what? It's just going to be easier if I don't have to get up and try to do this again and go to school and be embarrassed and not have to tell the story again, or, you know. So I took the pills. Didn't work, of course. Yeah, I ended up going to the emergency room. But when I woke up, I made up in my mind that day that I was going to live. I was going to live. And that's what I've done ever since.
Yeah. So let's go backwards a little bit, because you ended up in foster care because despite the abuse that you had been experiencing, which was being in the drug-ridden house, your mom beat you to the point where you had to be hospitalized. Is that what happened when you went to foster care, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So she'd gotten a 2x4, and, you know, she was a drug addict, alcoholic. She'd come in, and it was Mother's Day, and I didn't celebrate Mother's Day. Gosh, 10 years later, fast forward, I'm a mom now. So it's really nice to have a day just for moms. But she had come in, and you know how it is. You're intoxicated, high. The world is wrong and you're right type thing. And, you know, one thing led to another. She went out, got a 2x4 that was out in the yard, and started to hit me with it. And I think against her better judgment, in her mind, in her intoxicated high mind, she was whipping her child. Well, in a normal mind, you're like, you've gone too far. I remember seeing my grandmother, and she had said to my grandmother, you know, don't touch me, in some choice words.
Right.
Or, you know, this will be you type deal. And she just watched, but she was old. It was really nothing she could do. And I was probably better suited to take it than her, because she was elderly, of course. And God is good, because I remember I stopped feeling anything. I didn't at some point, and the doctors told me I just had gone into shock, right? But after a while, I didn't feel any pain. I really didn't hear the screaming. It was kind of just a blank canvas, if you will. But yeah, she went a little too far, and you know, now it's even hard for her to even admit what happened. But you know, when if you go to jail for something, the police kind of put their knee in your neck, and you know, you did something. But that's probably the most frustrating part. You know, as an adult, you grow up and you still can't have an honest conversation about it. So I try really hard with my kids to have the difficult conversations. So if I have to spank them, which isn't often, thank God, but when I do, I always have the conversation. I always sit and tell them why, and we are able to just talk through it.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I think it doesn't happen enough. You know, it doesn't happen enough where if we have to spank our babies, we should tell them why, and we should explain to them so that you understand and they understand.
Yeah.
But
as much as they can understand.
Right. There's never a reason to beat your child until they're bloody, until their clothes are sticking in their wounds, and, you know, beat them into the point they have to go into the emergency room. There's never an excuse or a good reason to do that to anyone, not just a child, but to anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. So who called? Did your grandmother call the police?
No, she was just there watching. She couldn't move. But I had a little cousin. I don't know what would have happened to me if she hadn't called. She actually went out the back door, went over to the neighbor's house, and called the police.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what put you in foster care. Now, I think it's interesting that in foster care, with everything else you went through, and this just speaks to what we think is normal, what we're used to. You were in a better situation, but it was uncomfortable to you.
Yes. Yes, because what becomes normal is your surrounding. You don't realize how bad it is until you get out of it.
That's right.
So now as an adult, when I go back to where I grew up, I can barely stand it. Yeah. I can barely stand it. So I don't go there very often because not much has changed. But when that's all you know, and that's how you've lived for 15 years, 16 years, you know, from 3rd grade to 9th grade, it's all you know.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
only know chaos, so you learn how to operate and live in chaos.
And it
it's
becomes your normal. Like you said, it becomes your normal. So like you said,
absolutely.
when you went into foster care, I think this is just so fascinating that you, with everything you went through, you didn't want to end your life. You wanted to keep going. But when you got in foster care where it was better, that's when it became so unusual
Hmm.
that you, thought about ending your life. Mitchell Peace Joy Jen says, thank you for sharing your testimony. She said, this is a story of triumph over tragedy. Thank God. Thank you, Mitchell, so much for your comment. And it is. We're talking to Raquel Richardson Thomas. So I know that you also took your mind to another place, a place where you started writing. Where
Hmm.
did that come from?
So you know what? I've been writing since I was a little person. Probably, I mean, it maybe first grade, kindergarten. I've always I've always enjoyed writing, but I remember when things were really hard and things had turned to the worse in my house, I would write it. I would write it out. I would write like letters. And
Mhm.
that's what I thought they were, but they were really like stories. And I would really just recap what had happened or what I felt. And it was the only way I could really articulate it. I couldn't really articulate with words in a conversation, but I could write it down. By the time I was in high school, I probably had a book of poems by then. By the time I was out of college, I probably had 100 short stories. And then I kind of set it down when I got to my corporate career, making money, being an adult, relationships, etc. And my first marriage, I got married in Paris. I was in France, and my high school coach, who I can't, thank enough, she was very instrumental in me being where I am right now. We were just standing there, and she said, "Wow, we're in Paris. I wouldn't have missed this for the world." And she said, "You should write. You should write your story. Somebody needs to hear this." And that was in 2010. And I was like, maybe. And my husband at the time said, "Yeah, you really should." And then he gave me the first gift, and it was a journal,
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful book. I still have it to this day. And I started on my honeymoon journaling, and I journaled my first book, essentially. What Becomes of a Broken Soul really tells the story of me, if you will. But I pinned it. I started pinning it right after my wedding. I was in Barcelona, Spain. I was in Spain at this point, and I just started journaling, and that journal became my book.
Mm-hmm. We've Danielle Lake says, Raquel, thank you for your courage to share such a moving story. She says your experiences have made you a strong person. You're quite an exemplary woman. Keep the faith. She says, keep writing. It's an excellent outlet, and she does. Danielle, we'll talk a little bit more
Yeah.
about that. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Please continue to post and share this message out so we can get it to the masses, because a lot of people have gone through. People are going through. We're still in the midst of COVID, and people have lost and
Mhm.
had
Yep.
so much traumatic experiences. And that's what Faith Friday is about, just to share some stories, to share some inspiration, some motivation, so people can know if somebody else made it through,
You
you
can
can
too.
you can do it too. You can do it too. I want to ask you a little bit about your relationship with your parents um, after all of this. And you mentioned a little bit, that you have had and are still having some challenges, talking to your mom about it. And of course, I know, but I'm asking you so other people, can know about it. So tell us about your relationship with your mom and dad, which I think.
Um, you know what? My dad always did the best he could with what he had. And when that happens, you feel the love, even
Mhm,
when it's bad.
yeah.
So I've always felt the love between my father and I. And I've always known, even when he dropped the ball, and he dropped the ball often, he didn't do it intentionally. And when he dropped the ball, he always came back to say, "I'm sorry. And I should have done better. I need to do better until the next time." but he could always admit it. And that mattered. It mattered. And he shared a vulnerability with me that probably, my mom just didn't have or couldn't. But for my mom, it was never her fault. And at some point you have to say, well, you're the adult. I'm the child. Like,
Right.
So that's a constant struggle. We're better than we were. I do have to take a break from her because she's toxic in some ways. So I have to take a step back and remember who I am and whose I am.
And who she is, Raquel. And who she is.
And who she is.
Because you can't change who people are. That's the thing. You can't change people. We have to deal with people where they are or decide not to.
And so it could be really good for, a month or two, and then it can go all the way bad. And when it goes there was a time where I would yell and go back and forth. At this point, I walk away.
Yeah.
I block my number. I don't respond. But I'll say this, my children absolutely love her, my mom, and she's a better grandmother than she could have ever been a mother. And I think that's as good as it could be at this point. So, and that's okay too. I think I'm at a point where, I don't necessarily need a mommy, but I have so many great women in my life. Tre, Angela Carr Patterson, who is, who's been very instrumental these last 2 years in my life. But I have, really strong motherly women that when I need to pick up the phone and call, or when I need to yell or cry, I can call them and they give me exactly what I need. And then I go back into the world and I get going. But she's a good grandmother. And my father's a good granddad. But my dad was a good dad with a lot of flaws.
Right.
My father was a good father with a lot of flaws.
Before we take a break, I want to say something about what I admire about you with your mom is that even with everything that happened and what she did and what you're saying, the challenges, you still take care of your mom. You still took care of your mom and you still take care of your mom. And that to me says so much about you, Raquel, because she is still your mom, good, bad, ugly, beating you with a 2x4, whatever. And you are evolved enough, even if you're hurt and whatever, you are still evolved enough to recognize, good, she's still my mom, and you take care of your mama. You take care of your mama. And that means a lot. That's big.
You know what? Because I love my mom.
Yeah.
And it's that simple. I don't have a shortcut in that. I love my mom, and I'm not going to allow anybody to hurt my mom.
Right.
And I'm not going to allow my mom to go without. I'm going to force her now to help herself, but she's never going to be homeless. She's, I'm going to make sure of that. But it is different. I haven't talked to her really since December. And I had to give myself a break because as an adult, people look at me and they think my life is perfect.
Yeah.
It is not. While I may not have financial issues or concerns, I still have real life things. And I had to take a break, from her to give myself what I needed so that I could take care of myself, so that I can return, take care of my children and the community that I serve, because my community work is very, very important to me. So I just kind of stepped back. I'm not mad, but I knew that I didn't have the emotional, mental capacity in the season I am right now to allow her to talk to me crazy, treat me poorly. So I just took a step back, and, the kids call, they're going over with her this weekend. I don't stop my children from that communication because they love her and she loves them. And it's a good time when they're over there.
Yeah. We're going to talk to Raquel more about the community work that she's talking about. We're going to talk to her about how she used pain, disappointment, and what some would see as yet another tragedy in her adult life to begin her path to owning 5 successful and more businesses. That's coming up next on Coping with COVID. It's Faith Friday. We're talking to Raquel Richardson Thomas. I'm Tre Tailor. We'll be back. Coping with COVID. Updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Visit scdheck.gov for an updated list of testing sites and important information on how to protect yourself, your family, and friends from the coronavirus. SCDHEC. Healthy people, healthy communities. In it together and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, presenting Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with COVID. The City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Log on to columbiasc.net/OBO. Agape Counseling and Training Services. Call 803-779-2777 for licensed professionals of counselors and social workers helping families, engaged and married couples, and individuals of all ages gain an understanding of all aspects of their lives. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, contact Agape Counseling and Training Services at agapects.com. And Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Coping with COVID, brought to you by SCDHEC. In it together, the Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Center, and Palmetto Media Connections.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
This flu season arrives during the COVID-19 pandemic. Groups at risk for serious illness from COVID-19 and flu are similar, but complications from flu are much higher in young children. Everyone over 6 months of age should get a flu shot to help prevent more illnesses, hospitalizations, and deaths in South Carolina.
The flu is not just a cold. Each year, many South Carolinians are hospitalized from the flu and even die.
Getting the flu vaccine is the best protection against the flu for everyone in your family.
The flu vaccine is safe, effective, and does not cause the flu.
You can make a difference this flu season by protecting yourself from the flu.
It's important that I protect my baby.
It's important that we protect our families.
It's important that we protect our schools.
And our students.
It's important.
It's important.
It's important.
It's important that we protect our state.
Talk to your healthcare provider, pharmacist, or health department about the flu vaccine today.
Every cookie sold in the Girl Scout Cookie Program helps girls learn lifelong lessons in people skills, decision-making, and goal-setting. It's amazing how much you can learn from a cookie.
Celebrating Black History Month, Coping with COVID presents African Americans in the White House.
Michael Stanley Reagan is the first African American to be named administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. The Goldsboro, North Carolina native began his career at the EPA during the Clinton and Bush administrations, then served for 8 years as Associate Vice President for Clean Energy and a Southeast Regional Director for the Environmental Defense Fund. Now, President Biden has selected Reagan to serve as the first African American male administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. Michael Stanley Reagan, a Black history maker in the White House.
Celebrating Black History Month, Coping with COVID presents African Americans in the White House. From TaylorMade Productions. You're watching Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by SCDHEC, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, also Agape Counseling and Training Centers, and Palmetto Media Connections. It's Faith Friday, and we encourage you to post and share this information out so we can get the message to the masses, because we're talking to Raquel Richardson Thomas this Faith Friday, getting our motivation, inspiration, and encouragement on from her story of going from a drug-ridden home, foster care, and abuse to owning 5 successful businesses before the age of 30. Check the replay if you're just joining us, because you want to hear more of this riveting story. So Raquel, you put yourself through college and then ended up working at Toyota. You were at the top of your game, and then you lost your job. Now, that would probably make a lot of us spiral, but it actually, as many people did during the pandemic, but you turned it around into an opportunity to start being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so corporate America is it was a great stepping stool it was a great foundation for me to learn. But at the end of the day, I was never really cut out for corporate America, and I was very successful in my corporate career. And the truth of the matter is, white America was tired of the Black trophy kid doing it right and getting too much good praise. So I got actually terminated based on a moral clause, which was crap. But here or there, ended up circling back and suing them, and we settled outside of court. And I just said, you know what? I'm not going back to work for anybody. Right. For all that I did for that company, I can do for myself. I could at least make my salary. I know that I can at least make my salary. And that's what I did. I had started my first business while I was still there. It was a commercial cleaning business. And it was kind of moving slow. But when I stopped working for that corporation and I started working for myself, and I gave my corporation the energy that I gave that business, we literally that year signed 6 or 7 corporate contracts for the cleaning company. That business yielded me much more money than the corporation was ever going to pay me. And I made 6 figures then. That business led to daycare. That from daycare led to a retail business. From retail to being an author, to it just trickled down from there. I kind of started to build the blocks and realized that I was never going back to work for somebody. I would always work for myself. So I started to diversify my portfolio as an entrepreneur, and I wasn't afraid to tap into new things. I think that's a part of the success that I've had. I understand that I have to make money. If I want to make money, I have to spend money. And in making money, I'm going to lose some money. So once I got going with the first business and I stopped working for that corporate job and I had time to pour into my own business, the rest is kind of history.
Tell us about some of the lessons you learned in business. What's a good lesson you learned in having your own business?
You learn a lot, but I'll tell you one of the most important things, everybody's going to make mistakes. You're not going to go through business and not make mistakes. The key is to learn from those mistakes. But the one thing that I can tell you is no matter what business you have, you must understand how to operate all pieces of the business. Mm-hmm. When you're a small business owner, we often deal with having a difficult time hiring employees, generating traffic, marketing, just making sure people know what you have. So you must understand and know how to operate your business. And that's from ground zero all the way to level 100. So you need to, in my restaurant, for example, I can cook everything on the menu. I'll clean the bathrooms. Whatever needs to be done, a bartender, waiter, I can do it. So that's the number one thing I think for business owners. You must know how to operate your business, and it should not stop if somebody walks out of the door. You should be able to step right in and do that particular job.
Right. You were talking about the business of one of the businesses, your restaurant's called Golden, and it's in Columbia, South Carolina, or off of Two Notch Road. What about you? Of course, now you're here back. You came back to Columbia because all of this was kind of happening in the DC, Maryland area, in the DMV area. You moved back. Golly, was it 5 years ago?
No, it hasn't been that long. Raquel is 4, so 3 years. 3 years.
No, if she's 4, she was born here.
No, she was born. She was 8 months.
Yeah, you were almost here. Yeah. Okay.
She was 8 months, but we were working so much. I was on a plane back and forth to Columbia. I think I was 9 months, 8 months when I got on the plane the last time. And when I came back, she was probably 3 months. Right. So yes, I was here quite a bit while she was in my tummy. And then 3 months after she was born, I was right back here working. So, but yeah, she was 8 months when we moved here.
Right. And so why did you decide to move back to South Carolina? Why was that important for you?
I made a lot of money in Maryland, in my corporate career, as well as in my entrepreneurial career. And the work that I did back here in South Carolina was all community work. It was all work with children in underserved communities. And no matter what I did in Maryland, it didn't feel as good as it felt when I did it at home.
Hmm.
So when I was home, it felt so good. I was so happy. I mean, I would have happy tears. I would, it just felt really good. So I was kind of getting tired of not having anybody there. The work that I loved was in South Carolina. And I just woke up one day and I said, I'm going home.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks later, I moved home.
Yeah.
I had property here already, which I think, again, God is so awesome because I had started buying real estate. I was doing all these things in Columbia, not of the mindset to move home, but diversifying my portfolio as a business owner. But when I was ready to move, I was able to move in 2 weeks because I already had real estate here. I already had a place to stay and live and all those things. So I just literally, I got up and packed up the U-Haul. I still had 2 properties in Maryland. I just built a house. I wasn't there a full year. I had a condominium, a townhouse, 3 businesses going. And I was like, yeah, I'll sell them.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I sold everything within a year, and I don't have anything up there now. All of my stuff is right here at home in Columbia. So it was a blessing. It was just time to come home. I think God said, you know what? I've given you all the things, all the worldly things that you asked for, that you wanted. Now let's really start working. Let's really get to passion and purpose. Let's really start to shift the atmosphere and help other people.
And tell us about that. I know you have Dream Catchers, which is your nonprofit organization, and you've done camps and, as you said, spoken. Well, tell us about that piece of your life. Why is that important to you right now?
Dream Catchers is like the baby, it's my baby. It allows me to work with children in underserved communities. But most importantly, Dream Catchers gives me a platform to teach my gift to underserved communities and children. And through Dream Catchers, I teach business and entrepreneurship, along with building character, of course. But I am a strong believer that all of our children will not go to college and into the military, but they really can be business owners. I think God gives us all passion and talent to do something. And if we can just teach them at a young age, because it's not taught in our homes, most of us are first generation entrepreneurs, but if we can just teach them how to monetize their gift, then you know what, it may be okay for them not to go to college. It may be okay for them not to go into the military, but we don't even give entrepreneurship the same weight we give education and military. Yeah. And I think we have to change that in our family. The one thing that most brown babies are good at is using their hands and what's in their hands. So we have to teach them how to monetize it. For the kids that go in the corner and they decide to sell drugs and hustle, you already have something very special in them. They understand how to make money. So we could just teach them how to do it in a legal way before they get to that part. I think we will have healthier and stronger communities. We need to start putting dollars back in our communities. And the number one way and the fastest way for us to put dollars in our communities is to open up small businesses in our community. You want better schools, then you need more tax dollars. So it's kind of a trickle effect, but Dream Catchers allows me to do the work that I'm so passionate about and to share the gift that God gave me and my business sense to give it to young people so that they can make a better America, but more importantly, a better community for which they live in currently.
So tell us what you've got coming up. You've got Dream Catchers. Are you doing any? I know a lot of things are virtual now, and you used to do some camps and t-shirt contests and stuff like that. What are you doing now with Dream Catchers?
So Dream Catchers, last year we were we did our summer camp. We did our annual week summer camp, which is 5 days where we hold camp from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. and we teach entrepreneurship. Each child leads with a business plan. We give out scholarships during that week. Outside of the summer camp, this year, we're going to have our summer camp. We'll have our 4th annual summer camp, but we will also partner with Little Homie, Big Homie, and we're going to do an entrepreneurship fair, very similar to a science fair, but it's going to be an entrepreneurship fair. And I'm really excited about that project and really excited to work with Little Homie, Big Homie. I love their organization. And
Jamal. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then we have some virtual mentorship going on right now, trying to be as safe as possible, but we will do a face-to-face summer camp again this summer, which is kind of the highlight of my summer, spending a whole week with kids and just seeing where they start and where they end up, because the first day they don't want to be there.
Yeah, their mamas made them come.
And by the last day, it's like, Miss Raquel, look at me, look what I did. And that change is so powerful, and it really motivates me to continue to do what I do every day.
Yeah, you are working with some older students too, and adults through the Women's Business Center, where you are mentoring.
Yep. So I'm a professor at Benedict College. I teach in the business department. I'm also the co-chair of the board for the business department at Benedict College. I work in the Women's Business Center, which is the only HBCU in the country to get a grant to have a Women's Business Center right here in Columbia, South Carolina. I work with women entrepreneurs on launching their businesses, growing their businesses, and it's truly passion and love work. And you don't have to worry about money because the grant pays for me to do the job. So when I'm working with the clients, it's you're just working and building, and it's exciting. I have a couple clients that, I'm so proud of them. It's like they're my kids, but they're older than I am. But just seeing their growth and seeing what they're doing is so much fun. So being able to mentor through Benedict College has just been a blessing. I love Benedict. I love the leadership at Benedict. It's been a blessing. It ties right into what I love to do and helping our communities.
Right. We're talking to Raquel Richardson Thomas on this Faith Friday. Information to help you become inspired, motivated, and encouraged. She's gone through a lot in her life, but God has blessed so much, and she's giving back so much. Quickly, let's talk about some of the books, your books and the children's books.
Oh, man. So I'll start. My first book was What Becomes of a Broken Soul, which is my first novel. Actually hoping to do a short film on that at some point. Did a business book called Shifting into Purpose, The Journey to Entrepreneurship. And that book is really for novice entrepreneurs. And it literally walks you from step A through Z on how you set up your business, start your business, who you need to call, what you need to do. Both are available on Barnes & Noble online or Amazon. So you can go to Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble to get those books. And our latest project is called Wheezyville Adventures, and it is a kids entrepreneurship series. And I did that with my son, who's now 8 years old, but he was 6. Roman was 6 when we started this project. And I think he was 7 when we released the first but he has been instrumental in this project. He goes out and he reads to daycare centers and younger kids. We tell the story of young Black superhero children who are building businesses in a town that they've created. We don't have a lot of that. I have a really big project coming up soon, which I won't talk about too much, but I have a big project coming up soon with Wheezyville Adventures. And essentially, for those of you who want to give your children tools, it's a great series because it's a fun story for children to read, but it actually teaches them how to set up businesses that they can do right now. Lemonade stands, yard sales with toys they don't want any longer. Lick up. If you're from Columbia, South Carolina, you know what a lick up is. It's just Kool-Aid in a cup. You flip it upside down. But the candy lady used to sell those. So just teaching them how to have small businesses right now that they don't need any help to do, but teaching them the correct terminology, profit, loss, expenses, what that looks like, the barter system, partnerships, working with other people. So the Wheezyville Adventure books is really cool. I'm writing a lot right now. COVID has allowed me to work on some things that I didn't have time to work on before COVID. But since I've been able to write, my dream is to write for TV. So I've gotten a pilot done, a featured film done, and we have a project that's being shot by production companies right now. So it's really exciting time, but now I have so much time to write and do what I really want to do. I told you, ever since a little kid, I've been writing. So, as an adult, I'm enjoying being back in that space and writing and working on some writing projects. We're planning to do a stage play this year in September as well. Material that I've written. I'm super excited about that. That's been on my bucket list for many, many years. So being able to put on a stage play right here at home is going to be a really big milestone for me personally.
Mm-hmm. Wow, you've got a lot going on, Raquel. And as I don't know who sings the song "Started from the Bottom" and now you're here. And it's just such a great inspirational stories. Tell me how you juggle it all as we wrap up. Because it's a lot.
I think one of my biggest tools is time management. I've always been able to manage my time well. I've always been able to get it on a calendar, follow that calendar. That's the biggest tool for me, time management. But I think, again, it's not really me. It's a God thing. Being a mommy of two and juggling their schedules, working, cooking twice a day, breakfast and dinner, and still having time to do the thing that I love to do. I think it's a testament to being able to manage your time well, but also God just doing his thing and being obedient and doing what he tells me to do when he tells me to do it. And I don't question him a lot. I just say, okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's what's next. Yeah.
All right, Raquel. So you are taking clients. You take clients through the Women's Business Center. Do they have to go through the Women's Business Center, or can they just contact you if people want to?
Both. I take clients obviously through the Women's Business Center. There's several counselors there. So you may or may not get me as your counselor, but I also have a private consultant business where I take individual clients and I coach them as far as business is concerned. So you could do either or. You can go through the Women's Business Center, which is 100% free to everyone who comes through that program. And if you come to me individually, it's not going to be free, but you have more of an opportunity to work with me one-on-one versus being assigned to another counselor. But the Women's Business Center is a great way to start. It's a great way to start. There are a lot of great counselors, and the work that's being done right now at the Benedict Women's Business Center is just spectacular. You can't go wrong. I'll say that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Raquel Richardson Thomas, thank you so much, beautiful, for joining us today on Coping with COVID. Maxine says, may God continue to bless and watch over you. She says she loves you.
Love you too.
All right. Once again, you see Raquel's information on the screen. If you want more information about Raquel, about her books, about the children's books, or about her coaching and mentoring, or if you just need some inspiration, I'm sure she'll talk to you about just kind of getting from point A to point B, as she has done so very well. Raquel, thank you again so much for joining us today on Coping with COVID. Thank you for being willing and open to sharing your story. It's not always easy, I think, for us to share, but don't you think it is important? Do you think it's important? And I guess that's how I'll end today because a lot of people are scared to tell their story. They're scared to share. So
yeah, it's important. I was one of those people. And if it wasn't for Tre Tailor, I don't think I would have ever told the story because I had put it behind me. But you have to remember a couple things. Health is wealth, and taking care of your mental health and emotional health is very important. And if you don't let these things out, it kind of has a way of just tearing you apart on the inside. So remember that health is wealth, and heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yep.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown, but wear your crown and don't be afraid to fix someone else's crown as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for saying that about me. I mean, I think it was too my God purpose at the time. It was just my God purpose at the time. And, I was just doing what thus says the Lord, girl. So Raquel Richardson Thomas, thank you again so much for joining us. Our information is on the screen, and good luck to you, beautiful. God bless. You've got my support, whatever you do.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for having me. Have a great day, great weekend, and be safe out there. Wear your mask.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So again, you see the information on the screen for Raquel Richardson Thomas. Once again, please reach out to her if you need it. Listen, if you have a story or initiative that can help someone cope with COVID, please go over to the Tailor Made Production page on our Facebook and inbox me. I'd love to talk to you. Also, if you have a product or a service that could help someone cope with COVID, please email copingwithtreitailor@gmail.com. We would love for you to be a proud sponsor, just like SCDHEC, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities. Also, the Comet Agape Counseling and Training Center, Javis Tax Service is going to come on with us next week. In It Together, the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, and Palmetto Media Connections. Next, Wellness Wednesday. In It Together SC and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council present Wellness Wednesday. We're going to get a vaccine update. Plus, it's Eating Disorder Awareness Month. We'll talk about that too. Also, Thursday, retiring City Councilman Sam Davis is going to join us to tell us what his accomplishments were, what his goals and wishes are after he retires, and what he hopes will continue to happen in District 1. We'll also talk to Brenda Blackstock. She's with SC Thrive. She's got some great information for seniors. If you know a senior, if you are a senior, please make sure to watch us next Thursday. And then 1 week from today, Faith Friday, with Overseer Danita Forbes. She has another amazing story of overcoming adversity. That's it for Coping with COVID. As always, I leave you with a reading from Jesus Calling today on February 19th. Jesus says, "You are feeling weighed down with a plethora of problems, both big and small. They seem to require more and more attention, but do not give in to those demands. When the difficulties of your life feel as though they're closing in on you, break free by spending quality time with me," Jesus says. "You need to remember who I am in all my power and glory. Then humbly bring me your prayers and petitions. Your problems will pale when you view them in the light of my presence. You can learn to be joyful in me, your Savior, even in the midst of adverse circumstances. Rely on me," Jesus says. "I am your strength. I can make you feel like the feet of a deer, enabling you to go to higher heights." That's your Jesus Calling for today, Friday, February 19th. I'm Tre Tailor. Until the next time, I wish you peace, abundant blessings. Ask you to please be safe, be careful, and as Raquel said, wear your mask over your nose and under your chin. Have a great weekend.
Coping with COVID. Updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Visit scdheck.gov for an updated list of testing sites and important information on how to protect yourself, your family, and friends from the coronavirus. SCDHEC. Healthy people, healthy communities. In It Together and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council. Presenting Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with COVID. The City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Log on to columbiasc.net/OBO. Agape Counseling and Training Services. Call 803-779-2777 for licensed professionals of counselors and social workers helping families, engaged and married couples, and individuals of all ages gain an understanding of all aspects of their lives. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, contact Agape Counseling and Training Services at agapects.com. And Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Coping with COVID, brought to you by SCDHEC, In It Together, the Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Center, and Palmetto Media Connections.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.